Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. I used to think the scariest thing about Costco was going there on a Saturday afternoon. The crowds, the carts, the people stopping in the middle of the aisle like traffic laws didn't apply indoors. But now I can't walk into any warehouse store without feeling my stomach twist. Not because of the lights or the cameras or the echo of those giant metal shelves. Because of the samples. My name is Emily Carter. I was 32 when this happened, living alone in a small apartment outside Portland, Oregon. At the time, my life was ordinary in a way I was almost proud of. I worked billing for a dental office, came home tired, watched bad shows while folding laundry, and bought groceries in bulk because I hated going shopping more than once a week. That night, I went to Costco because I was trying to avoid people. It was a Thursday about 40 minutes before closing. Rain had been coming down all day, that cold Pacific Northwest rain that doesn't fall hard, just hangs in the air and makes everything shine. The parking lot was mostly empty, the wet pavement reflecting the red letters on the building like they were bleeding into the asphalt. I remember sitting in my car for a second, listening to the engine tick after I turned it off. I almost didn't go in. I don't know why. Nothing was wrong yet. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. Inside, the store felt too big for how few people were there. The lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere far away, a forklift beeped softly as it backed up. A woman in a red vest was dragging a mop near the entrance, and an employee at the receipt table nodded without really looking at me. I grabbed a cart even though I only needed a few things. Paper towels, dog food for my sister's dog, coffee, maybe one of those rotisserie chickens if they still had any left. That was it. Nothing dramatic. I had just turned down the first main aisle when I saw the sample table. It was weird because I didn't think they still did samples that late. Usually by evening, the little stations were wiped down and empty, with only crumbs left behind. But this one was set up perfectly. A small metal tray, tiny white cups, steam rising from something warm. Behind it stood an elderly man in a hairnet and red apron. He smiled at me like he'd been waiting. "Evening," he said. "Would you like one?" I slowed the cart. "What is it?" "Creamy tomato soup." I started to say no. I don't even really like tomato soup. But then the smell hit me. Not just tomato, basil, garlic, a little black pepper, the exact smell of my mom's kitchen when I was a kid. My mom used to make tomato soup from scratch on rainy days. She'd put grilled cheese beside it, cut diagonally, because she said triangles tasted better. I hadn't thought about that in years. The old man held out one of the tiny cups. "You always liked this one," he said. I looked up at him. He was still smiling. It wasn't a creepy smile. That made it worse later. At the time, it was gentle, almost grandfatherly. "I'm sorry," I said. He blinked slowly. "The soup. I don't think we've met." His smile didn't change. "No, not yet." I let out a small laugh because that's what people do when they don't know how to react. I told myself he was just an odd old guy working a late shift. Maybe he confused me with someone else. I took the sample. It tasted exactly like my mother's soup. Not similar. Not close. Exactly. For a second, I wasn't in Costco anymore. I was 8 years old, sitting at our yellow kitchen table, watching rain slide down the window while my mom hummed under her breath. I could feel the scratchy socks I used to wear. I could hear the old refrigerator rattling. Then it was gone. I was standing under fluorescent lights, holding an empty paper cup. The old man was watching me. "You remembered that nicely," he said. I didn't answer. I dropped the cup in the little trash hole and pushed my cart away. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the next aisle made me freeze. Every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. There was no one there. I kept shopping. At least I tried to. The next sample table was by the frozen foods. A middle-aged woman stood behind it, slicing tiny squares of cake onto napkins. Birthday cake, white frosting, rainbow sprinkles, the cheap grocery store kind. My mouth went dry. When I was 9, I had a birthday party at a roller rink. My dad forgot to pick up the cake, so my mom ran to the store and bought the only one left. White frosting, rainbow sprinkles, my name written in blue spelled wrong. Emily. The woman at the sample table smiled. "Still hate when they spell it with 2 E's?" she asked. I stopped moving. "What did you say?" She tilted her head. "Sample?" I stared at her name tag. It said Linda. I had never met a Linda who knew about that cake. "How do you know that?" I asked. The woman's smile flickered, not with guilt, but with confusion. Like I had asked her something difficult. "You brought it in with you," she said. I backed away without taking the cake. My cart bumped into a pallet of bottled water behind me. The sound echoed way too loud. A man at the end of the aisle glanced over, then looked away. That was the part that made it feel so unreal. Other people were still shopping. A young couple argued softly over frozen pizza. A teenage employee stacked boxes of crackers. Life continued around me, like nothing strange was happening. I told myself I was tired. I told myself grief does strange things. My mother had disappeared when I was 12. I don't mean she died. I mean one morning she was there, and that afternoon she wasn't. Her purse was still on the counter. Her car was still in the driveway. The police searched. My dad fell apart. People whispered for years. No body, no note, no answer. Eventually, the world forced us to keep living. I don't talk about her much. I definitely don't talk about the last meal she cooked. Chicken and rice with lemon. Overcooked peas. Burnt onions because she got distracted and stood too long at the window. So when I turned into the next aisle and smelled lemon chicken, my whole body went cold. This table was near the cleaning supplies. A young man stood behind it. Early 20s maybe. Pale face. Red apron. Hairnet pulled too low on his forehead. In front of him were small plates of chicken and rice. I couldn't move. He looked up and said, "She was worried that day." My hands tightened around the cart handle. "Who?" "Your mother." The store seemed to go silent around me. The buzz of the lights got louder. My cart wheel squeaked once, then stopped. The young man pushed one of the tiny plates toward me. "She kept looking outside," he said. "You noticed, but you pretended you didn't." My throat felt like it was closing. I had never told anyone that. Not my dad. Not the police. Not even my therapist in college. "What is this?" I whispered. He looked down at the food like he was surprised by it. "A sample," he said. I left the cart. I just walked away. Not fast at first. I didn't want attention. Some stupid part of me still cared about looking normal. But once I turned past the refrigerators and saw another red apron at the end of the aisle, I started moving faster. Every sample station was open now. Every one. An old woman offering little cups of hot chocolate. A bald man with pieces of burnt toast. A teenage girl holding slices of green apples. Each smell hit me like a door opening in my head. My kindergarten classroom. My ex-boyfriend's apartment. The hospital waiting room where my dad cried into his hands after his first heart scare. Foods I hadn't eaten in 20 years. Foods tied to moments I had buried so deep I thought they were gone. And every worker looked at me like they knew me. Not recognized me. Knew me. I pulled out my phone to call my sister. No service. Of course. I tried texting her anyway. Costco weird. Call me. The message stayed unsent. I headed toward the front, but something was wrong with the layout. I knew that store. I had been there dozens of times. The registers should have been straight ahead, past the snack aisle. Instead, I found myself in furniture. Rows of couches, mattresses, fake living rooms under white lights. No customers, no music, just the low hum of refrigeration somewhere far away. Then I heard my mother's voice. "Emily?" I stopped so suddenly my shoes squeaked. It came from behind a display of recliners. Soft, tired, familiar. "Emily, honey?" My heart sank into my stomach as the aisle seemed to narrow around me. and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I knew it couldn't be her. I knew that. But knowing something doesn't stop your body from wanting it. I took one step toward the voice, then another. Behind the recliners was a sample cart I hadn't seen before. A woman stood behind it with her back to me. She had brown hair cut to her shoulders, the same way my mother wore it. She was stirring something in a small silver pot. Chicken and rice, lemon, burnt onions. I couldn't breathe. "Mom," I said. The woman turned. It wasn't her. Her face was blank in a way I still have trouble describing. Not expressionless. Empty. Like all the important things had been scooped out, and only the skin remembered how to smile. She wore a Costco apron. Her name tag said Emily. My name. She held out a sample. "You need to finish," she said. I backed up. She stepped around the cart. "You've carried too much," she said. "We can take it from you." That's when I noticed the other workers at the ends of the aisle. The old man with the tomato soup. Linda with the birthday cake. The young man with my mother's last dinner. More behind them. All in red aprons. All watching. Not rushing. Not grabbing. Just waiting. I turned and ran. I knocked into a stack of pillows and nearly fell. My shoes slid on the polished floor. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for my phone again. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Still no service. I ran past the electronics section. The TVs were all on. Every screen showed security footage. At first, I thought it was live footage of the store. Then I saw myself as a little girl, sitting at the yellow kitchen table. My mother placed soup in front of me. On another screen, I was at the roller rink birthday party, blowing out candles on the misspelled cake. Another showed my mom standing at the kitchen window the day she vanished. Then one screen showed me 10 minutes earlier, accepting the tomato soup. Underneath the footage were words in plain white letters. Memory response, strong. Retention, unstable. Processing, incomplete. I don't know why that scared me more than anything else. Maybe because it wasn't mystical. It was clinical. Like I wasn't a person. Like I was data. A hand touched my shoulder. I screamed and spun around. It was a real employee. A young woman holding a scanner. She looked terrified. "Ma'am," she said. "Are you okay?" I grabbed her wrist without thinking. "Where's the exit?" She stared at me. "At the front." "I can't find it." Her eyes flicked past me. Her face changed. When I turned, the old man was standing at the end of the electronics aisle. The real employee whispered, "Don't eat anything." I looked back at her. "What?" She was shaking. "Don't eat anything else. And don't let them say your full name." Before I could ask her what she meant, the lights over us flickered. When they came back, she was gone. Not walked away. Gone. Her scanner was on the floor. The old man started walking toward me. Slowly. "Emily and Carter," he called. The sound of my full name made my knees weaken. I ran again. This time I didn't care how insane I looked. I sprinted through the aisles, past bulk cereal and dog beds and towers of paper towels. Somewhere behind me, voices began calling out memories. "Your father kept her blue sweater. You read the police report when you were 16. You blamed yourself for sleeping through the argument." I pressed my hands over my ears and kept going. Then I saw the exit. Not the main one. An emergency door near the tire center hallway. A green sign glowed above it. For 1 second, I felt hope so sharp it almost hurt. I slammed into the push bar. Nothing happened. Locked. I hit it again. An alarm should have gone off. It didn't. Behind me, the workers entered the hallway one by one. The woman wearing my name tag stepped forward. "You can leave lighter," she said. "Everyone does." "What did you do to my mother?" I shouted. The workers stopped. For the first time, their smiles faded. The old man looked almost sad. "She gave too much," he said. "What does that mean?" She kept taking samples. The woman with my name tag lifted the little plate again. "Some people want to forget," she said. "Some don't know they do." I don't remember deciding to fight. I just remember grabbing the nearest thing I could find. a metal display stand, and swinging it into the emergency door handle. Once, twice. The third time, something cracked. The door burst open into cold rain. The alarm finally screamed. I stumbled outside into a narrow loading area behind the store. The air hit me like ice. I ran toward the parking lot lights, slipping on wet pavement, crying so hard I could barely see. A security guard found me crouched beside a row of carts near the entrance. Real police came. Real paramedics. Real questions. They checked the cameras. That's the part no one believes. The footage showed me entering the store at 9:18. It showed me walking to the soup sample table. It showed me standing there alone, holding an empty paper cup. No old man. No Linda. No sample workers at all. According to Costco, sample service had ended at 6. The emergency door had not been damaged. There had been no alarm. The young employee with the scanner didn't exist, at least not on payroll. The police were kind, but I could see it in their faces. Stress, exhaustion, maybe some kind of episode. My sister drove me home that night. I slept on her couch for 2 weeks. For a while, I convinced myself that was the end of it. Then small things started missing from my memory. At first, harmless things. The name of my third-grade teacher. The color of my first bike. The song my dad used to play on Sunday mornings. Then worse things. My mother's laugh. The pattern on the yellow kitchen curtains. The last thing she said to me before she disappeared. That one broke me. I spent 3 nights trying to remember it. I had always known it. It had lived in me like a splinter. And then it was just gone. A clean, empty space. A month later, I received a Costco envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name printed neatly on the front. Inside was a membership card. Not mine. The picture on it showed the woman from the furniture aisle. The one with my name tag. But the name printed underneath was my mother's. I haven't gone back. I don't shop at warehouse stores. I don't accept free samples anywhere. Not at grocery stores, not at fairs, not even little bites of cheese from smiling people with toothpicks. People laugh when I say that. That's fine. I know how it sounds. But sometimes when I pass a sample table, I see the workers standing a little too still. I see their smiles hold for half a second too long. And once last winter, I walked past a grocery store display where an elderly man was handing out tiny cups of soup. He looked right at me and smiled. "Emily," he said softly, "you forgot one." Even after getting away, even with the safety of crowded aisles and daylight around me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you remember. It's what someone else remembers for you. Story 2. Have you ever been told not to go somewhere, not because it's dangerous, but because it supposedly doesn't exist? That's what they told me about aisle 17. My name is Daniel, and I was 24 when this happened. At the time, I was living in a small town outside Dayton, Ohio, working the night shift at a discount grocery warehouse called Martin's Value Mart. It wasn't a big, famous store or anything. Just one of those places with harsh white lights, cracked floor tiles, dented shopping carts, and freezers that hummed so loud you could hear them from the parking lot. I had taken the job because I needed money fast. My dad had been sick that year, my younger sister was still in school, and I was trying to help my mom with bills. The shift was awful but simple. Clock in at 10. Break down pallets. Restock shelves. Face the products. Mop spills. Pretend I wasn't slowly turning into a ghost under fluorescent lighting. Most nights, nothing happened. That's the part people don't understand. Places like that feel creepy after midnight, but not in an exciting way. They feel dead, boring, like the whole world forgot about them. On my first week, an older employee named Ray walked me through the back room and gave me the usual warnings. Don't overload the cardboard baler. Don't leave freezer doors cracked. Don't clock out before the manager checks your section. Then he pointed toward the far end of the store, past the frozen foods. And don't go looking for aisle 17. I laughed because I thought he was joking. The store had 16 aisles. Everyone knew that. The signs went from 1 to 16. and after aisle 16 was just the frozen section, then the swinging doors to receiving. Ray didn't laugh. "There is no aisle 17, he said. "So if you see it, you turn around." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but something about his face stopped me. He didn't look like he was trying to scare the new guy. He looked tired, like he'd said the same thing too many times. A few days later, I asked another co-worker, Priya, about it during a break. She was sitting on an overturned milk crate, eating chips from a bag she hadn't paid for yet. I said, "What's the deal with aisle 17? She froze for half a second, then rolled her eyes. "Ray told you." "Yeah, just ignore him." "So it's a prank?" Priya looked toward the break room door, then lowered her voice. "Last month, a guy named Tyler worked here. Overnight stalker. Nice kid. Quiet. One night he was doing inventory by frozen foods, and he vanished." "Vanished?" "Quit, technically. That's what management said. But his car stayed in the lot for 3 days. I didn't say anything after that. For the next couple weeks, I did what I was told. I worked my sections. I avoided looking too long past the freezers. Even when the lights flickered back there, even when I heard something dragging across the floor after 2 in the morning, I kept my head down. Then came inventory night. Anyone who has worked retail knows inventory is hell. Everything has to be counted. Every box, every case, every stupid flavor of soup nobody buys. That night there were only 4 of us in the store, me, Priya, Ray, and our assistant manager, Melissa. Around 1:40 a.m., Melissa handed me a scanner and a clipboard. "Frozen overstock," she said. "Count what's on the pallets by receiving." I didn't want to go back there. I couldn't explain why without sounding like an idiot, so I just nodded. The store was quiet except for the hum of the freezer cases and the soft beep of Priya scanning canned goods 2 aisles over. I walked past the frozen pizzas, past the ice cream doors fogged white at the edges. That was when I heard it. A slow scrape, wood against tile. I stopped. At first I thought one of the pallets had shifted. Then I saw it. A shrink-wrapped pallet of cereal boxes was moving by itself across the floor, sliding inch by inch toward the dark space beyond the freezer section. No one was pulling it. No jack underneath. No wheels. Just scrape, pause, scrape. My heart sank into my stomach as the pallet disappeared past the last freezer door, and I realized there was darkness there that should not have been there. There should have been a wall. Instead, there was an aisle. A sign hung above it. Aisle 17. The letters looked old. Not dirty, exactly, but faded, like the sign had been hanging there for years. I stood there with the scanner in my hand, trying to breathe normally. I remember thinking, this is some setup. Ray and Priya are messing with me. There's a hidden section. Maybe storage. Maybe seasonal overflow. I told myself it was nothing. Then the scanner beeped by itself. On the screen, where it should have shown the inventory menu, there was a single line of text. Daniel Morales, replacement pending. I dropped it. The noise echoed down the aisle. Somewhere in the dark, a box fell from a shelf. I should have run right then. I know that now. But fear doesn't always make you run. Sometimes it pins you in place. Sometimes it makes you stupidly curious because your brain refuses to accept what your eyes are seeing. So I stepped into aisle 17. The temperature changed immediately. Not colder, staler, like walking into a basement that had been sealed for years. The shelves were fully stocked, but nothing looked right. The first thing I noticed was the expiration dates. Milk cartons that expired in 2031. Bread dated 6 months into the future. Cans of soup with labels printed crooked, showing names instead of flavors. I picked one up without thinking. Priya Patel, chicken noodle. Below her name was a picture of Priya standing in our break room, eating chips from a bag. The exact thing I had seen her doing days earlier. I put the can back so fast it rolled off the shelf and clattered to the floor. Then I saw the cereal boxes. They weren't cartoons. They were family photos. Some showed smiling parents and kids at birthday parties. Others showed people standing in parking lots, caught from far away like surveillance pictures. One box had a photo of my house on it. My actual house. The front porch light was on, and my mom's blue Honda was in the driveway. Under the photo, in bright, cheerful letters, it said, "Limited time offer, Daniel's last morning home." I felt my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I backed away from the shelf. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Then I heard a voice. "Daniel." It came from farther down the aisle. I turned toward it. At the end of aisle 17, under a buzzing ceiling light, someone was standing completely still. For one terrible second, I thought it was Tyler, the missing employee. I had only seen his picture once, taped to an old employee's schedule in the break room, but I recognized the shaggy brown hair and the thin face. He was wearing a Martin's Value Mart vest. "Tyler?" I whispered. He smiled. Not like he was happy. Like someone had pulled the corners of his mouth up and forgotten to tell his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here yet," he said. My legs went weak. I turned and ran. At least I tried to, but the entrance wasn't behind me anymore. The aisle stretched back into darkness. No freezer section, no lights from the main store. Just shelves and shelves and shelves, packed with products that whispered softly as I passed. I heard my name from cereal boxes. I heard my mom's voice from a jar of pasta sauce. I heard Ray saying, "Turn around," from inside a box of crackers. I ran until my lungs burned. Then I slammed into someone. It was Ray. He grabbed my shoulders so hard it hurt. "Don't look at the labels," he said. "Ray, what is this? Walk with me." Now. He pulled me between the shelves, keeping his eyes on the floor. I could see sweat shining on his forehead. "I told you not to come here," he said. "There was a pallet. It always drags something in. That's how it gets you curious." "What is this place?" Ray didn't answer right away. We passed a display of toy trucks. Each one had a name printed on the side in black marker. Some of them were children's names. Some were employee names I recognized from old punch cards in the office. Finally, Ray said, "The store needs people." "What?" "Not workers. People. Faces. Names. Memories. It takes them before they leave." "That doesn't make sense." "No, it doesn't." We reached a section full of cleaning supplies. The bottles were filled with cloudy gray liquid, and inside each one floated something small and pale that I refused to look at closely. Ray stopped and pointed ahead. "There's a fire exit past the pet food. Sometimes it opens. When it does, you go through it and don't stop." "Sometimes?" Ray looked over my shoulder. His face changed. I turned. Tyler was closer now. He wasn't walking. He was appearing between flickers of the overhead lights. 10 feet away, then 8, then 5. Behind him, the shelves were changing. Product labels peeled and reprinted themselves. Boxes shivered softly like they were breathing. Ray shoved me. "Run." I ran. I could hear him behind me, shouting something, but his voice cut off halfway through. Not screamed. Cut off. Like someone muted a TV. I didn't turn around. The aisle bent left, then right, then left again. It shouldn't have fit inside the building. It went on too long. My chest hurt. My shoes squealed against the tile. I reached the pet food section and saw the fire exit. A red metal door. No alarm bar. No window. Just a handle. I grabbed it and pulled. Locked. Behind me, a voice said, "Daniel, you're late for your shift." It wasn't Tyler anymore. It was Melissa. I turned and saw my assistant manager standing about 15 feet away, holding a clipboard. Her face was normal, calm, almost bored. "You need to finish inventory," she said. I knew it wasn't her. I knew that. But hearing her normal work voice in that impossible aisle almost broke something in me. I kicked the door. Nothing. I kicked again. The handle rattled. Melissa stepped closer. The shelves beside her began filling with new products. My name appeared on shampoo bottles. My face appeared on frozen pizza boxes. Then I saw one package that made my blood go cold. A bag of dog food. On the front was Ray. He was smiling from the label, wearing his Martin's vest, one hand raised in a little wave. The print was still wet. I grabbed the handle again and pulled with everything I had. This time the door opened. Cold night air hit my face. I stumbled out into the loading area behind the store and fell hard onto the asphalt. For a few seconds, I just lay there gasping, looking up at the cloudy sky. Then the fire exit clicked shut behind me. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. The loading area should have led back around to the parking lot. I knew the layout. I had taken trash out there 100 times, but the fence was gone. The dumpsters were gone. There was only a row of delivery trucks stretching into fog, each one with Martin's Value Mart painted on the side. Inside the nearest truck, something knocked once. Then again, I ran along the building until I found the employee entrance. I slammed my badge against the scanner, but it flashed red. Access denied. Inside the glass door, the break room lights were on. Priya was standing there. I pounded on the door. She stared at me like she didn't know who I was. "Priya," I shouted. "Open the door." She looked past me, toward something behind my shoulder. Her eyes widened. The door unlocked. I rushed inside so fast I nearly knocked her over. "What the hell happened to you?" she said. I couldn't answer. I just kept saying, "Ray. Ray's back there. We have to get Ray." Priya went pale. "Ray called out sick tonight." "No, he was here. Daniel, Ray hasn't worked here in 3 weeks." That was when Melissa came in from the hallway, holding the same clipboard. The real Melissa. She frowned at me. "Why are you outside?" I looked at her hands. Her face. Her name tag. Normal. Human. Annoyed. I tried explaining. I really did. But the words came out wrong. Aisle 17. Pallet moving by itself. Tyler. Ray on a dog food bag. Melissa stared like she was deciding whether to call the police or an ambulance. Priya didn't laugh though. She walked over to the break room bulletin board and pulled down the old employee schedule. Ray's name wasn't on it. Not because he called out, because every shift where his name had been printed was blank. Like someone had erased him. I quit that same night. I didn't give 2 weeks. I didn't return my vest. I drove home shaking so badly I had to pull over twice. 2 days later, I went back during daylight. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. The store looked normal. Aisles 1 through 16. Frozen section. Receiving doors. No aisle 17. I walked through slowly, trying not to look scared in front of families buying groceries. Then I found it, near the pet food, a new display of Martin's Value Mart brand dog treats. There were little smiling cartoon dogs on the bags, and in the corner of one bag, standing behind the cartoon dog like a mascot, was Ray. Tiny, printed in full color, wearing his vest, smiling, one hand raised. I left the bag there. I left the store. I moved away from Dayton less than a month later. That was 6 years ago. I work from home now. I don't take night shifts. I don't go into grocery stores after dark. I know that sounds ridiculous, but there are certain things your body remembers even when your brain tries to file them away as stress or exhaustion. Sometimes I'll be in a store and pass the end of an aisle, and for 1 second, I'll see darkness where there should be a wall. I never check. I just turn around. Because maybe every place has an aisle 17. Maybe every normal building has one corner that doesn't belong. And maybe the only reason most people never see it is because it isn't looking for them yet. But if you ever work late somewhere empty, and someone tells you not to enter a place that doesn't exist, don't laugh. Listen, because I've learned that the scariest doors aren't always locked. Sometimes they're waiting for you to notice them. And by then, they already know your name. Story 3. The weirdest thing about the night I found out I wasn't my parents' son was how normal it felt at first. That's what bothers me the most. It wasn't during some huge family fight. It wasn't after finding a locked box of documents in the attic or overhearing a secret phone call. It happened under bright white lights, with a cart full of groceries, while my dad was eating the last piece of a churro he said he bought for everyone. I was 17 at the time, living in a quiet suburb outside Phoenix. My name is Daniel, at least that's the name I grew up with. I was a senior in high school, not popular, not lonely either. Just average. I played guitar badly, worked weekends at a frozen yogurt place, and spent most nights pretending to do homework while actually watching videos in my room. My family was normal in the boring way I used to be grateful for. My dad, Mark, sold insurance. My mom, Lisa, worked part-time at a dentist's office. My little sister, Abby, was 13 and thought everyone in the house existed mainly to annoy her. We weren't perfect, but we ate dinner together most nights, took the same beach trip every summer, and had a drawer in the kitchen full of batteries, old coupons, and keys nobody could identify. Nothing about us felt fake. That Friday night, my mom dragged us to Costco because she said we were out of everything. It was raining, which didn't happen much where we lived, so the parking lot had that oily shine, reflecting the red brake lights and glowing signs. Inside, it smelled like wet jackets, pizza, detergent, and roasted chicken. It was one of those trips where everyone was tired and irritated for no real reason. My dad kept wandering off. Abby had earbuds in and was leaning against the cart like she was being forced through a war zone. My mom was speed walking through aisles with a list on her phone, grabbing bulk paper towels, bread, milk, frozen waffles, and a giant bag of trail mix nobody ever finished. I remember feeling weirdly calm. Safe even. That's the part one think about now. How danger can sit right next to you in public, under fluorescent lights, surrounded by families and employees in red vests, and still wait patiently. We checked out around 8:45. The store was close to closing, so everyone had that quiet urgency. Carts rattled toward the exit. Kids cried from inside oversized jackets. Somewhere behind us, an employee announced something over the intercom that came out muffled and metallic. My dad handed me the receipt while he adjusted the pack of water bottles under the cart. "Hold this," he said. I took it without thinking. At the exit, there was an older receipt checker I didn't recognize. He had gray hair, heavy eyelids, and a face that looked tired in a permanent way. His name tag said Ron. My mom smiled and angled the cart toward him. "Long night?" she asked. He didn't answer. He just took the receipt from my hand. Usually they glance at it, swipe a highlighter across it, maybe count one or two big items, and let you go. But Ron stared at that receipt like it was a medical report. My mom's smile faded a little. "Everything okay?" Ron looked up at me, not at my parents, at me. Then he said very quietly, "One item is missing." My dad laughed once, like he thought it was a joke. "Missing? Trust me, we bought half the store." Ron didn't smile. He held up the receipt and tapped the bottom with his finger. I leaned closer. There were all the normal items. Milk, bread, paper towels, batteries, rotisserie chicken, cereal. And then, underneath everything, printed in the same plain black font, was one final line. "Son, not scanned." For a second, nobody said anything. Then Abby laughed. "What the heck?" My mom snatched the receipt from Ron's hand, stared at it, and made this tiny sound in her throat. It wasn't a gasp. It was more like the sound someone makes when they drop something breakable and already know it's too late. My dad reached for the receipt. "It's a printing error," he said quickly. "Obviously." Ron kept looking at me. "I'm going to need you to step aside." My heart sank into my stomach as the automatic doors slid shut behind me, and I realized the exit had stopped opening. Not just for us, for everyone. The people behind us started complaining. A man with a cart full of bottled water said, "Come on, seriously?" Someone else muttered that they had frozen food melting. Ron raised one hand, without turning around. Two security guards appeared near the food court. I hadn't seen them before. They walked toward us slowly, not rushing, not confused, like this was a procedure they had practiced. My mom grabbed my wrist. "No," she said. "We're leaving." One guard, a younger guy with a shaved head, stepped in front of the cart. "Ma'am, we need everyone to remain calm." My dad's face had gone pale. I'd seen him scared maybe twice in my life. Once when Abby had a fever that wouldn't break. Once when a driver ran a red light and almost hit us. This was different. This wasn't fear of what might happen. This was fear of something that had finally happened. "Mark," my mom whispered, My dad didn't answer. I looked between them. What's going on? My mom squeezed my wrist so hard it hurt. Nothing, Daniel. It's nothing. Ron said, that name isn't on the purchase record. The way he said it made my skin go cold. Not your name. That name. My dad suddenly stepped away from me. Just one step. But I felt it. Dad. He looked at the floor. The second security guard spoke into a radio. We have an unscanned dependent at exit 1. A few people nearby went quiet. Not all of them. Some still complained, but the ones close enough to hear just stared, pretending not to stare. My mom turned on Ron. He was scanned, she hissed. Years ago. The words hit me so strangely that I almost laughed. Scanned. Like I was a package of batteries. Ron's face didn't change. System says otherwise. My dad finally looked at me, and there was something in his expression I had never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, distance, like he was looking at someone he used to know from work. My hands started shaking. What are you talking about? I asked. Mom. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The shaved head guard touched my shoulder. Come with us. I jerked away. Don't touch me. That was when my dad said the sentence that broke something in me forever. We don't know him. At first, I thought I misheard. The store noise seemed to stretch and thin out. The rolling carts, the complaining customers, the rain tapping against the high windows, all of it became muffled. My mom looked at him sharply. Mark. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. We don't know him, he repeated, louder this time. He must have followed us from inside. Abby pulled out one earbud. What? I stared at him. Dad, what are you doing? The guard moved closer. My mom started crying, but she didn't correct him. That hurt more than anything. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps behind me made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. 3 more employees had gathered near the front. None of them looked surprised. Ron folded the receipt and placed it into a small plastic sleeve. Take him to membership. I don't know why that word scared me so much. Membership. It sounded harmless, boring, like where you go when your card expires. But the way they said it felt like a room people didn't come back from. The guards tried to guide me away from the exit. I twisted around, looking at my family. Mom, tell them who I am. She covered her mouth with both hands. My dad took the cart from her and started pushing it toward the side wall, away from me. Abby stood frozen, crying silently now, her face completely confused. Abby! I shouted. One guard grabbed my arm harder. I panicked. Not in a brave way. Not in a movie way. I just pulled back as hard as I could and slammed into a stack of boxed snacks near the exit. They toppled everywhere. People shouted. One of the guards slipped on the glossy cardboard, and for half a second his grip loosened. I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just ran back into the store. The lights felt too bright. The aisles looked endless. My sneakers squeaked on the polished concrete as I cut between displays of winter jackets and folding chairs. Somewhere behind me, a radio crackled. Unscanned dependent moving toward the freezers. Unscanned dependent. I turned down an aisle and crouched behind a pallet of dog food, pressing a hand over my mouth. My chest hurt. My phone was in my hoodie pocket, and I fumbled for it with trembling fingers. No service. Of course. I tried calling 911 anyway. It didn't connect. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. For one stupid second, relief washed through me. Then I opened it. I'm sorry. That was all. I stared at the message until the words blurred. A second text came in. Don't let them take you to membership. My breath caught. Before I could reply, footsteps approached the aisle. Slow. Careful. I crawled backward behind the dog food, scraping my elbow on the concrete. 2 employees passed the end of the aisle. One of them was Ron. He'll head for receiving, the other employee said. Ron answered, they always do. They always do. I waited until their footsteps faded, then got up and moved in the opposite direction. My whole body felt wrong, like I'd stepped out of my life and into some copy of it where all the signs were familiar, but none of the rules made sense. I found a fire exit near the back wall. For 1 second, hope hit me so hard I almost cried. Then I saw the keypad beside it. A red light blinked. Locked. Behind me, a door opened somewhere near the bakery. Voices echoed. I ducked into a narrow hallway marked employees only. The hall smelled like cardboard, bleach, and cold air. The walls were beige, scuffed by carts. I passed a break room with empty chairs and a vending machine humming softly. On a bulletin board were employee schedules, safety notices, and old flyers. Then I saw the photos. They were pinned along the bottom of the board, half hidden behind a laminated sheet about workplace injuries. Kids. Not employee kids. Not school fundraiser photos. Just pictures of children standing in the store. Some were toddlers in carts. Some were teenagers. Some looked like they were crying. Under each photo was a small printed label. Transferred. Returned. Damaged. Reassigned. My hands went numb. Near the end of the row, there was a faded photo of a little boy in a blue dinosaur shirt, sitting in a shopping cart. I knew that shirt, not because I remembered wearing it, because my mom had a framed photo of me in that exact shirt on the hallway wall at home. Only in our photo, I was at the zoo. In this one, I was inside the store. The label under it said, Daniel, place/2009. I stumbled back. Something metal clanged behind me. I turned and saw my dad standing at the far end of the hallway. For a second, neither of us moved. He looked older than he had 10 minutes earlier. Daniel, he said softly. I backed away. Don't call me that. His face twisted. I know you hate me right now. What is this? He rubbed both hands over his face. We couldn't have kids, he said. Not then. Your mom was falling apart. We were desperate. I stared at him. So you bought me? He flinched. No, it wasn't like that. It says placed. He glanced toward the hallway behind him. We were told you were abandoned. By Costco? He closed his eyes. By people who knew how to make paperwork look real. The street outside the store, my whole life, it all looked ordinary in my memory, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something had always been off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. I heard more footsteps. My dad did too. His voice dropped. Listen to me. There's a receiving door past the produce cooler. It opens from the inside if the alarm is disabled. Why should I trust you? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time that night I saw my dad again. Not a good man, not an innocent man, but the man who taught me how to ride a bike. The man who stayed up with me when I had the flu. The man who cried when our old dog died. You shouldn't, he said, but run anyway. A door slammed open behind him. Ron appeared. My dad turned and blocked the hallway. Go, he said. I ran. I ran past the break room, past stacks of flattened boxes, past the janitor's closet with a mop bucket still wet. Someone shouted behind me. I shoved through a swinging door and nearly slipped in the produce section. The store was almost empty now. The front lights were dimmed. The aisles looked longer in the partial darkness, like the building had stretched while I was hiding. I found the cooler door near the back. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't grip the handle at first. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the latch. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. The door opened into freezing darkness. I stepped inside. The cold hit my lungs. Boxes of lettuce and fruit lined the shelves. Fans roared overhead. At the far end, I saw another door with a glowing green exit sign. Behind me, the cooler door opened. Ron stepped in. He didn't run. He didn't need to. You don't understand, he said. You were never supposed to reach 17. I backed toward the exit door. What does that mean? He sighed almost sadly. Families return what they can't keep. Sometimes the system catches up. My real parents, I said. Where are they? Ron's expression shifted. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. They came back for you. My throat tightened. When? He didn't answer. When? Years ago. The fans hummed. I thought of my real parents walking those same aisles, searching for a little boy in a dinosaur shirt, asking employees, calling my name, being told maybe I wandered outside, maybe someone else took me, maybe they should have watched closer. Ron took one step toward me. Come to membership. We'll explain everything. Something about that calm voice broke me. I grabbed a crate of oranges and threw it at him. It didn't hit hard, but it surprised him enough. Oranges burst across the floor, rolling under his feet. He slipped, slammed into the shelf, and I shoved through the exit door. The alarm screamed. Real night air hit my face. Rain poured down behind the building. The loading dock was empty except for a parked semi and a row of dumpsters. I ran across the wet pavement toward the road, slipping twice, skinning my palm open on the asphalt. A car horn blared. I stumbled into the street, waving both arms. A woman in a minivan slammed her brakes and screamed through the windshield. I ran to her window, sobbing so hard I could barely talk. "Please," I said, "call the police. Please." Maybe I looked insane. Maybe she almost drove away. But she saw the employees coming out behind the store. She unlocked the door. "Get in." I climbed into the passenger seat, drenched and shaking, and she drove. Police found my parents still in the parking lot. My mom told them a different story at first. She said I had been confused, that there had been a misunderstanding, that I was their son and everything was fine. But Abby told the truth, or at least enough of it. She told them Dad said he didn't know me. She told them about the receipt. She told them Mom texted me not to go to membership. By morning, the store had no record of the receipt. Ron didn't exist in their employee system. The security footage from that night had corrupted. My parents were questioned for hours. Eventually pieces came out. Fake adoption documents, cash payments, a woman who approached them in a support group for infertile couples, a story about a child given up quietly by parents who couldn't handle him. They said they didn't know I had been taken. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. The police reopened an old missing child case from 2009. My real name was Nathan Miller. My real parents had lost me in that same store when I was 4 years old. They had turned away for less than a minute near the bakery, and when they looked back, I was gone. They searched for me for years. My real father died before they found me. My real mother was still alive. Meeting her was the strangest thing I've ever felt. She hugged me like she had been holding her breath for 13 years. I hugged her back, but I didn't remember her. That guilt is hard to explain. Everyone expects blood to wake something up inside you, but mostly I felt like a stranger being loved by someone who had already mourned me. I don't talk to Mark anymore. Lisa sends letters sometimes. I haven't opened the last 3. Abby still calls me every few weeks. She says I'm her brother no matter what the papers say. I believe she means it. As for the store, nothing big happened publicly. A few employees quit. Some reports were filed. Lawyers got involved. Then everything became quiet in that way things become quiet when too many people have too much money to lose. But I know what I saw. I know what was printed on that receipt. And I know there were other photos on that bulletin board. Other kids. Other labels. Even after escaping, even with the safety of police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying Ron's face in that cooler. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink when he told me my life had been inventoried. I'm 23 now. I still hate warehouse stores. I hate receipt checkers. I hate the sound of automatic doors closing behind me. Sometimes when I buy groceries, I check the bottom of the receipt before I leave. Not because I expect to see my name again, because I'm afraid I'll see someone else's. And if you ever walk out of a store and the person at the door tells you one item is missing, don't laugh. Look at the receipt. Then look at the people you came with. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a stranger following you home. Sometimes it's realizing the people taking you home were strangers all along. Story 4. Have you ever looked at a normal place and realized it only feels safe because people are usually there? I used to think that about Costco. Bright lights. Families arguing over bulk snacks. Kids sitting in shopping carts. Someone's dad comparing 2 giant tubs of laundry detergent like his life depended on it. It was the kind of place that felt too big to be scary. Then I spent one night inside after closing. My name is Evan. I was 19 when this happened, living in a boring suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona, where every weekend looked almost exactly the same. Same heat coming off the asphalt, same fast food places, same parking lots full of minivans and tired parents. My friends and I were in that weird age where we were technically adults, but still stupid enough to think being reckless counted as having a personality. There were 5 of us. Me, my best friend Caleb, his girlfriend Mia, our friend Jordan, and a guy named Trevor. Trevor was the reason the whole thing happened. He was the one always trying to make videos. Not normal videos either. Every idea had to be bigger, dumber, and closer to getting us arrested. Overnight challenges, abandoned buildings, fake ghost hunts, sneaking into places we had no business being. He had a small YouTube channel and acted like he was one upload away from changing his life. One Friday night in July, he texted our group chat. We hide in Costco after closing. Overnight challenge. Easy views. I remember laughing at first because it sounded like something 12-year-olds would do after watching too much internet. But then he kept pushing it. We don't steal. We don't break anything. We just hide, film, leave when they open. Mia said it was stupid. Jordan said it was illegal. Caleb said there was no way we could pull it off. And I said nothing. That was usually how Trevor got me. He knew if he made something sound like a dare, I'd eventually go along with it just so I wouldn't seem scared. We picked the Costco near the edge of town, the one by the highway with the massive parking lot and the gas station out front. We went in around 8:30, about half an hour before closing, wearing hoodies even though it was still hot outside. Trevor had a little backpack with portable chargers, water bottles, and 2 GoPros. He kept whispering into one of them as we walked in. Tonight, we're spending the night inside Costco. No employees, no lights, no way out until morning. At the time, it felt funny. That's the part one hate remembering most. It felt like a joke. We wandered around pretending to shop while the employees made those announcements about closing soon. The place was still full of people, but it had that end-of-day feeling. Carts clattering, tired workers pulling stray items off shelves, parents rushing kids toward checkout, the smell of pizza and cardboard and floor cleaner. Trevor had already picked the hiding spot. In the back, near the paper towels and bottled water, there was a section with stacked pallets and seasonal patio furniture. Behind a wall of box gazebos was this narrow gap just wide enough for us to crouch in. You couldn't see it unless you were looking for it. We waited there while the store emptied. At first, we kept giggling like idiots. Caleb whispered that his legs were falling asleep. Jordan kept checking his phone. Mia looked irritated, like she regretted every decision that had led her there. Then the final announcement came over the speakers. Attention Costco members, the warehouse is now closed. Please proceed to the front registers. The voice echoed across the aisles, calm and polite. A few minutes later, the big front shutters rolled down with a metallic rumble that seemed to travel through the floor. My heart sank into my stomach as the sound faded, and I realized we had actually done it. We were inside, after closing, hidden behind boxes like criminals. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then Trevor grinned and whispered, "We're legends." We waited another 20 minutes before crawling out. The store looked completely different without people. You don't notice how much noise humans make until they're gone. No carts, no voices, no checkout beeps, just the hum of refrigerators, the buzz of ceiling lights, and the faint ticking sounds of the building settling. The aisles looked longer than usual. The shelves seemed taller. All those giant boxes stacked above us felt less like merchandise and more like walls. Trevor started filming right away. "Yo, this is insane. We are literally alone in Costco." He ran down the center aisle with his arms out like a kid. Caleb laughed and followed him. Mia told them to keep it down. Jordan grabbed a bag of chips from one of the shelves and Trevor slapped it out of his hand. "No stealing," he whispered. "Don't be stupid." That was the first time something felt off. Not the store. Trevor. He said it too sharply, like he wasn't worried about morals. He was worried about something specific. I asked him what his problem was, and he just smiled. Nothing. Just don't ruin the video. We moved toward the food court first. The lights were still on there, but everything was covered and locked up. The soda machines were dark. The pizza warmers were empty. Someone had left a wet floor sign near the counter, and for some reason that yellow sign in the empty space made me uncomfortable. Mia leaned against the counter and said, "Okay, we got the footage. Can we just find an exit now?" Trevor laughed. "We've been here 20 minutes. "Yeah," she said, "and it already feels wrong." I wanted to tell her she was being dramatic, but honestly, I felt it too. The store wasn't silent anymore. There was a noise coming from somewhere behind us. A soft dragging sound, like wood scraping concrete. We all turned. Far down the main aisle, past the frozen section, a pallet jack rolled slowly across the floor. No one was pushing it. It moved from one aisle to another, then stopped. For a few seconds, nobody said anything. Then Caleb whispered, "Maybe it's automatic?" Jordan said, "Pallet jacks aren't automatic, man." Trevor lifted the camera. "Dude, that was perfect." Mia grabbed his arm and hissed, "Stop filming." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but then the speakers clicked on. Not loudly, just a soft pop, then static. We froze. A woman's voice came through. "Evan." Just my name. Not an announcement. Not a sentence. My name. The sound stretched across the empty warehouse and disappeared into the high ceiling. I looked at the others. Caleb's smile was gone. Jordan's mouth was slightly open. Mia looked at me like I had somehow caused it. Trevor lowered the camera. Then the speakers clicked again. "Caleb." Another pause. "Mia." The air felt colder. "Jordan." A long silence. Then finally, "Trevor." But his name sounded different. Lower. Almost like whoever said it had leaned closer to the microphone. Trevor swallowed and forced a laugh. "Okay, someone's messing with us." That was what we all wanted to believe. Maybe a night crew employee had seen us. Maybe security was watching and trying to scare us before calling the cops. That explanation should have made me feel better. It didn't, because right after Trevor said that, the lights above the food court shut off. One section at a time. Click, click, click. Darkness folded toward us from the far wall. We ran, not in a brave way, not in a planned way. We just scattered toward the main aisles like animals. My shoes squeaked on the polished concrete. My phone slipped in my sweaty hand. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled to turn on the flashlight. We stopped near the clothing section, breathing hard between tables of folded jeans and jackets. The lights there were still on, but everything beyond the aisle behind us was dark. Caleb said, "We need to leave. Right now." Trevor nodded too quickly. "Yeah, front doors." We headed toward the entrance. That was when we saw the security cameras move. There were little black domes hanging from the ceiling, the kind you never really think about. But now every single one we passed rotated with a soft mechanical whir. Not toward the group, toward Trevor. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but when Trevor stepped left, the cameras followed left. When he stopped, they stopped. When he walked behind Caleb, they adjusted until they had him again. Mia noticed too. "Why are they following you?" she asked. Trevor snapped, "They're not." But his voice cracked. At the front, the metal shutters were down. The glass doors behind them were locked. The parking lot outside looked calm and empty under orange lights. My car was out there. Caleb's car was out there. Freedom was maybe 30 feet away, and it might as well have been another planet. Jordan called 911. No service. All of us checked. Nothing. No bars. No Wi-Fi. Nothing. Trevor said we should look for an emergency exit. There had to be one near the back. He sounded like he was trying to take charge, but his eyes kept darting up at the cameras. We moved together this time. No more jokes. No more filming. At least, I thought no more filming. Then I noticed Trevor's GoPro was still blinking red on his chest. I asked, "Are you seriously still recording?" He looked down like he forgot it was there and turned it off. Or pretended to. We found a hallway near the bakery that led to employee areas. A break room, offices, storage. The door should have been locked, but when Jordan tried the handle, it opened. The hallway smelled like old coffee and cleaning chemicals. The break room was small and plain. Vending machines, plastic tables, a bulletin board with safety notices and schedules. The kind of room employees probably hated spending lunch in. Then Mia made this small sound. Not a scream. More like the air had left her body. She was staring at the wall behind the door. It was covered with photographs. Dozens of them. Polaroids. Printed screenshots. Security camera stills. Groups of teenagers. Couples. Men in hoodies. Girls posing with carts. People crouched behind pallets. People hiding inside storage racks. People laughing in dark aisles. Every photo had names written underneath in black marker. Some had dates. Some had one name circled. I stepped closer, even though I didn't want to. A photo near the middle showed 3 boys standing by the freezers, grinning at the camera. Underneath, March 12, 2019. One name was circled, Daniel. Another photo showed 2 girls hiding inside a patio display. Underneath, October 3, 2021. One name circled, Kelsey. At the bottom of the wall, there was an empty space. 5 fresh photos had been taped there. Us. Me, Caleb, Mia, Jordan, Trevor. Taken from above, probably when we first walked in. Under our photo, our names were already written. Only one was circled. Trevor. Nobody moved. Trevor stared at his own name like it was something dead on the floor. Caleb turned toward him slowly. "What did you do?" Trevor shook his head. "Nothing." Mia said, "Trevor." I said nothing, but he was backing away from the wall. That was when Jordan noticed the open laptop on one of the break room tables. The screen was black except for a paused video file. Trevor tried to grab it before anyone else could, but Caleb shoved him back. Jordan hit the space bar. The video started. It was Trevor, sitting in his car earlier that afternoon. He was talking directly to the camera. "Okay, so tonight's video is going to be insane. The plan is I get them inside, we stay until like 2, and then I ditch them. I already called in an anonymous tip from a blocked number, saying a group might be breaking in tonight. Security or cops show up, they get caught, I'm already outside, and I get the footage." My skin went cold. In the video, Trevor laughed. "I know it sounds messed up, but they'll be fine. Trespassing charge, maybe. Probably just a warning. But the reactions are going to be crazy." The video stopped. For a second, the only sound was the hum of the vending machine. Then Mia whispered, "You were going to leave us?" Trevor's face was gray. "It was just for the video." Caleb hit him. Not hard enough to knock him down, but enough that Trevor stumbled into a chair. I remember the chair legs screeching across the floor. That sound still gets to me sometimes. Trevor shouted. I wasn't actually going to do it. The speakers crackled above us. "Yes, you were." The voice was calm. Not angry. Not human enough. The break room lights went out. Mia screamed. Someone knocked over a chair. My flashlight beam swung wildly across the walls, catching faces in the photos, open mouths, circled names. Then something heavy slammed shut in the hallway. The door. We tried it, all of us pushing and pulling, but it wouldn't move. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized we were completely trapped. Someone was watching, and there was no way out. Then the speaker above the vending machine clicked. "For may leave," Caleb shouted. "Open the door. For may leave." Trevor was breathing fast. No. No, no, no. The ceiling vent above him rattled. He backed away from it. Something scratched inside the wall. Not loud, just enough to make every hair on my arms rise. Then the break room door unlocked. A single click. We all stared at it. Nobody moved until it swung open by itself. Beyond it, the hallway lights were on. At the far end, the main store was dark except for one glowing path of lights leading toward the front entrance. Mia grabbed my sleeve. "Go." Trevor lunged after us. The second his foot crossed the doorway, every light in the hallway flashed red. A metal gate slammed down from the ceiling between him and us. It came down so fast that the air moved against my face. Trevor crashed into it, fingers gripping the bars. "Open it," he screamed. "Open the gate." Caleb grabbed the bars and pulled, but it didn't move. Trevor looked at me then. I will never forget his face. Not because he looked scared, because beneath the fear, he looked offended. Like some part of him still believed he didn't deserve what was happening. The speaker clicked again. Member violation retained. Then the lights behind Trevor shut off. One row at a time. Click, click, click. He screamed our names as the darkness reached him. I wish I could say we tried harder. I wish I could say we stayed. But we ran. The path of lights guided us through the store. Past the silent registers. Past the food court. Past the shopping carts lined up like cages. The front shutter was raised just enough for us to crawl under one by one. Outside, the warm night air hit me like water. We collapsed on the pavement near the cart return. A police cruiser pulled into the lot less than a minute later, lights flashing but siren off. Then another. Then an unmarked car. Security came too, actual employees this time, confused and irritated and half asleep. We were questioned for hours. We told them everything. Not all of it, obviously. Not the voice. Not the photos with circled names. Not the gate dropping from the ceiling. We said Trevor had planned the whole thing and got separated from us inside. Police searched the store. They found no Trevor. No break room photo wall. No laptop. No gate in that hallway. They did find his backpack behind a stack of paper towels, along with one of his GoPros. The footage was corrupted after the moment we entered the store. Just static and audio pops. Trevor was reported missing. For a while, people blamed us. His parents blamed us. His followers online made videos saying we sacrificed him for attention. Some said he faked it for views and ran away. But Trevor never posted again. 3 months later, I got a padded envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a Costco receipt. No items, just one line printed in the middle. Trevor, retained. Under it, in smaller letters, reason, planned betrayal of group. I showed Caleb, Mia, and Jordan. None of us knew what to do with it. We didn't take it to the police. Maybe we should have. But by then, we already knew how insane it sounded. I still shop at Costco sometimes. Not that one. Never that one. And I don't go near closing. I don't mess around in stores after hours. I don't laugh at overnight challenge videos. I don't trust people who always need a camera running when they're doing something wrong. Because the part that scares me now isn't that we got trapped. It's that something inside that place knew Trevor better than we did. It knew what he planned before we did. It knew who was harmless, who was stupid, and who was willing to sell out his friends for a video. Sometimes I think about that wall of photos, all those smiling groups, all those circled names, people who probably thought they were just having fun. And sometimes, when I'm standing in a warehouse store and I hear the speakers crackle before an announcement, I stop moving. I wait. I listen. Because I'm afraid that one day, in that calm customer service voice, I'll hear a name I recognize. Or worse, I'll hear mine. Story 5. Have you ever bought something so ordinary that it didn't even feel like a decision? That's what still bothers me the most. It wasn't some antique doll from a creepy shop. It wasn't a strange book or a cursed object or anything you'd expect to hear about in a story like this. It was a box of frozen meals. A family pack. The kind you grab because it's on sale, because your kid is hungry, because your wife says the freezer is empty, and because you're too tired to think about dinner for the next 2 weeks. My name is Daniel. I was 37 when this happened. At the time, I lived with my wife, Laura, and our 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Our life was normal. Painfully normal, actually. I worked in logistics for a medical supply company. Laura taught 2nd grade. Sophie was in that phase where she was obsessed with drawing horses, but somehow every horse looked like a dog with longer legs. We had a small beige house, a 2-car garage, a basketball hoop nobody used, and a kitchen with one loose cabinet door I kept saying I'd fix. On Saturdays, we usually went to Costco. That was our thing. Laura liked buying in bulk because she said it made her feel prepared. I liked the free samples. Sophie liked sitting in the cart even though she was getting too big for it. It was boring, safe, family life stuff. That Saturday it was raining hard. Not storming, exactly, just that cold, steady rain that makes parking lots shine under gray light. Costco was packed. Wet jackets, squeaky cart wheels, people moving slowly like cattle through the entrance. Sophie was cranky because we wouldn't buy her a giant stuffed bear. Laura was tired. I remember she kept rubbing her forehead and saying, "Let's just get what we need and go." We were almost done when I saw the freezer section display. It was set up at the end of an aisle, stacked higher than my chest. Family pack, 24 complete meals. The box showed a smiling family sitting around a kitchen table. A father, a mother, and a little girl. They were eating pasta or casserole or something beige and warm looking. I stopped because the price was stupidly cheap. Laura looked at it and said, "That's actually not bad." I picked one up. It was heavier than I expected. The cardboard was cold and slightly damp from the freezer air, and I remember feeling this strange little pinch in my hand when I grabbed it, like static electricity. I almost dropped it. Laura asked, "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just cold." Sophie leaned over from the cart and stared at the picture. "Daddy," she said, "that looks like us." I laughed, because kids say things like that. But when I looked again, I understood why she said it. The father on the box had dark hair like mine, same trimmed beard, same kind of tired eyes. The mother had shoulder-length blonde hair like Laura. The little girl had brown hair and a messy ponytail, wearing a yellow hoodie. Sophie was wearing a yellow hoodie that day. Laura smiled a little, but not really. "That's weird," she said. I turned the box slightly, trying to make the picture look less familiar. It didn't. Even the kitchen in the photo looked close to ours. White cabinets, a wooden table, a small plant by the sink. But you can convince yourself of almost anything in a store. Stock photos are meant to feel familiar. That's the whole point. I told myself it was nothing. We bought it. At checkout, the cashier scanned the box twice. The register made a dull error beep both times. She frowned, wiped the barcode with her sleeve, and tried again. This time it worked. But instead of the normal beep, the scanner made this low, almost musical tone. The cashier froze for half a second. Then she said, "Huh." Laura asked, "Is there a problem?" "No," the cashier said too quickly. "It just rang up as a set." "A set of what?" I asked. She looked at the screen. Then she looked past me, toward the front of the store. "I don't know," she said. "Have a good night." I should have asked more. I know that now. But we were wet, hungry, and Sophie was starting to whine. So I loaded everything into the trunk and drove home through the rain. That night, Laura made one of the meals. Chicken Alfredo. Nothing strange happened at first. The tray looked normal. The plastic film fogged up in the microwave. The kitchen smelled like garlic, fake cheese, and steam. Sophie barely ate hers. Laura said it was too salty. I thought it tasted fine. After dinner, I went to break down the cardboard box so it would fit in the recycling bin. That's when I noticed the photo had changed. I stared at it for a long time. The family was still at the table. Same father, same mother, same kitchen. But the little girl was gone. Her chair was still there. Her plate was still there. But Sophie wasn't in the picture anymore. At first, I thought maybe I was remembering it wrong. I held the box under the kitchen light and turned it side to side. Maybe the image wrapped around the corner. Maybe there had been different pictures on different panels. But no, the girl was gone. I called Laura over. "Look at this." She was loading the dishwasher and didn't turn around. "Look at what?" "The box." She sighed and came over. I pointed at the photo. "Wasn't there a kid in this picture?" Laura looked at it. Then she looked at me like I'd asked something stupid. "No." I laughed because I wanted her to laugh too. "Yes, there was. Sophie even said it looked like us." Laura blinked. "Who?" My whole body went cold in a way I can't explain. I looked toward the living room. The TV was on. A cartoon was playing. A half-finished glass of apple juice sat on the coffee table. But the couch was empty. "Sophie," I called. No answer. Laura frowned. Daniel, what are you doing? I walked down the hall. Her bedroom door was open. The room inside was not a little girl's room. It was an office, a desk, a printer, boxes of old tax papers. No pink curtains, no stuffed animals, no drawings taped to the wall. I remember gripping the doorframe because the hallway seemed to tilt. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut somewhere behind me, and for one insane second, I thought maybe someone was inside the house with us. I turned. Laura stood in the hallway watching me. "What is wrong with you?" she said. "Where's Sophie?" Her face changed. Not fear, not confusion, concern, like she was worried about me. "Daniel," she said softly, "we don't have a daughter." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the silence in that hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. I ran to our bedroom and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I opened my photos. There were pictures of me and Laura. Vacations, Christmas, birthdays. No Sophie, no school photos, no videos of her riding her bike, no silly selfies with stickers on her face. Gone. I searched her name in my messages. Nothing. I opened my contacts. Nothing. Laura followed me into the room. "Daniel, you're scaring me." I shouted at her. I hate admitting that. I shouted, "Stop pretending. Where is our daughter?" She started crying. Not the kind of crying someone does when they're lying. Real crying. Terrified crying. That made it worse. Because either she was a better actor than anyone I'd ever met, or reality had folded around me and left me standing there alone with the memory of a child nobody else knew existed. I didn't sleep that night. Laura stayed on the couch. I stayed at the kitchen table with the frozen meal box in front of me. Around 3 in the morning, I noticed something else. On the side of the box, near the nutrition facts, there was a little printed line I hadn't seen before. Servings remaining, 23. I counted the trays in the freezer. There were 23. The next morning, Laura told me she thought I should see a doctor. I said fine. I said whatever I needed to say, so she would stop looking at me like I was breaking apart in front of her. But while she was in the shower, I took the box out of the freezer and drove back to Costco. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. Costco had just opened. The parking lot was nearly empty. Rainwater still sat in shallow puddles between the white lines. I carried the box inside without a cart. The greeter barely looked at my membership card. I went straight to customer service. A young employee with a name tag that said Maya asked how she could help me. I put the box on the counter. "I need to return this." She looked at it. Her expression went blank. Not confused. Blank. Like her face had shut down for a moment. Then she said, "Do you have your receipt?" I did. I'd folded it into my jacket pocket the night before. She scanned it, and the computer made that same low tone from checkout. Maya didn't move. Behind her, an older employee stepped out from a small office. He had gray hair, a red vest, and a smile that looked practiced. "I can take this one," he said. Maya backed away without arguing. The older man looked at the receipt, then at me. "Sir," he said, "this item can't be returned after opening." "I don't care about the money," I said. "Something is wrong with it." His smile stayed exactly the same. "What seems to be the issue?" I lowered my voice. "There was a girl on the box." He didn't answer. "My daughter," I said. "She was on the box. We ate one meal, and now she's gone." The man looked over my shoulder, toward the wide aisles behind me. Then he said something I still hear sometimes when I'm half asleep. "Sir, you already purchased the full set." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, "the product is functioning as intended." I grabbed the box off the counter and backed away. He didn't stop me. No one did. I drove home like a drunk man, drifting between lanes, missing turns, barely seeing the road. When I got back, Laura was in the kitchen. She looked tired, pale. She had cooked another meal. I saw the empty tray in the trash. I couldn't speak. She said, "I thought eating might help. Maybe your blood sugar was low yesterday." The box was on the counter. The photo had changed again. Now the mother was gone. Just the father sitting alone at the kitchen table. One plate, one fork, one glass. I whispered Laura, but she wasn't there anymore. The house shifted around me. Not physically, not with shaking walls or flashing lights. It was quieter than that. Her purse vanished from the chair. Her coat disappeared from the hook. The wedding photo on the wall became a picture of me alone at a lake I didn't remember visiting. The second toothbrush in the bathroom was gone. Her side of the closet was empty. My phone had no record of her. No texts, no photos, no missed calls. I stood in the kitchen with one frozen cardboard box and a reality that insisted I had always lived alone. That was when panic finally took over. I threw every tray into a trash bag, carried it outside, and shoved it into the bin. Then I dragged the bin to the curb, even though pickup wasn't until Wednesday. I went back inside and locked the door. For about 10 minutes, I thought maybe that was it. Then I heard the freezer open, just a soft rubber seal pulling loose. I froze in the hallway. The freezer door was hanging open. Inside, stacked neatly on the shelf, were 22 frozen meals. The box sat beside them. Servings remaining, 22. I don't remember screaming, but my throat hurt afterward. I called 911. I told them someone had broken into my house. That was all I could think to say. If I told them the truth, they'd send someone else. While I waited, I stood on the front porch in my socks, holding a kitchen knife like an idiot. A police cruiser arrived 8 minutes later. 2 officers checked the house. They found no forced entry, no person inside, nothing missing. One of them asked if I lived alone. I said no. Then I stopped, because I knew what the records would say, because I knew what my neighbors would say, because I knew if they asked me one more question, I'd sound insane. So I told them I'd been under stress. They told me to call a friend. I didn't have anyone close enough. Not really. Laura had been the one with friends. Sophie had been the one who made the house noisy. By sunset, I was sitting on the floor in front of the refrigerator, staring at the freezer door like it was a sleeping animal. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. At some point, I must have dozed off. I woke up to the microwave beeping. 3 sharp sounds. Beep, beep, beep. The kitchen was dark except for the green clock on the microwave. A hot tray sat inside. Steam clouded the plastic film. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the keys I'd left on the counter, though I didn't even know where I planned to go. Then I saw the box. The photo showed the empty kitchen table. No father, no family, just 3 plates. And under the logo, a new line had appeared. Final serving ready. I ran. I didn't lock the door. I didn't grab shoes. I just ran into the street in the cold night air. My neighbor, Mrs. Albright, was pulling her trash cans back from the curb. She yelled my name, and I must have looked bad because she opened her door and let me inside before I even explained. I tried to tell her everything. The family pack, the photo, Sophie, Laura. She listened the way you listen to someone you think is having a breakdown. But then her face went pale. She said, "Daniel, you had a wife?" I nodded, crying so hard I could barely breathe. She looked toward my house through her front window. "I thought so," she whispered. That stopped me. She crossed her arms tightly, like she was cold. "I thought I remembered a woman," she said. Blonde. Always waved when she got the mail. But when I tried to picture her just now, it slipped away. I asked if she remembered Sophie. Mrs. Albright squeezed her eyes shut. "A little girl," she said. "Yellow sweatshirt." Then she started sobbing. That was the first time I knew I wasn't completely insane. She called the police again, but this time she said she saw someone inside my house. Maybe she believed it. Maybe she just wanted them to come faster. When the officers arrived, the front door of my house was open. The microwave was still glowing, but the tray was gone. So was the box. The freezer was empty. The only thing left on the kitchen counter was a receipt. Not the one from Costco. A new one, printed on thin white paper. At the top, it had the store name, the date, and my membership number. Below that, 3 lines. Daughter, served. Wife, served. Husband, pending. The officers didn't let me keep it. They took it as evidence, then later told me it had gone missing from the file. Of course it did. For a while, I stayed with my brother in Indiana. I told him I was getting divorced. I told everyone that. It was easier. There was no way to explain mourning people who had no graves, no records, and no one else to miss them. Months passed, then years. I moved twice, changed jobs, stopped shopping at warehouse stores completely. I don't buy frozen food anymore. I don't even like walking past freezer aisles. That cold air spilling over my shoes makes my stomach tighten. Sometimes I still remember Sophie clearly. Her laugh, the way she said spaghetti like paschetti, her yellow hoodie. Other days it's harder. That scares me more than anything, because memories shouldn't fade when you're fighting to keep them. Laura is harder too. I remember her voice, but not always her face. I write details down whenever I can. I have notebooks full of them, things no official document can prove. Her favorite mug was blue. She hated cilantro. She sang quietly when she folded laundry. Sophie had a scar on her knee from falling off a scooter. Sophie wanted a horse named Pancake. Sophie existed. Laura existed. I need that written somewhere, even if I'm the only person left who knows it. Last winter, I got a letter in the mail with no return address. Inside was a Costco flyer. I almost threw it away. Then I saw the frozen food section. There was a family pack on sale. The picture showed a kitchen table. At first, it looked empty. Then I looked closer. In the background, near the sink, there was a little girl in a yellow hoodie. Her face was turned slightly away from the camera. Beside her stood a blonde woman with one hand on her shoulder. And at the table, sitting alone, was a man with dark hair and a trimmed beard. He was looking straight at the camera. Straight at me. Even after everything, even with years between me and that night, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen printed on that box. The calm eyes, the empty kitchen, the way it waited. I burned the flyer in my driveway. But 2 days later, another one came. Then another. I moved again after that. I don't know what the product really is. I don't know who makes it. I don't know why it chose us, or if it chooses anyone at all. Maybe every family pack is just a meal to most people. Maybe 1 in 1,000 is something else. Maybe the worst things in the world don't look evil when you first bring them home. Maybe they look convenient, cheap, normal, something you toss into your cart because dinner is one less thing to worry about. So if you ever see a frozen meal box with a family on the front, and they look a little too much like you, don't laugh it off. Don't tell yourself stock photos are supposed to feel familiar. Put it back, leave the store, and whatever you do, don't buy the full set. Story 6. Have you ever heard an announcement in a public place that made you question what you were actually seeing with your own eyes? Not a warning, not a sale, something worse than that. Something that sounds official, but feels personal. This happened to me a few years ago, during what was supposed to be a completely normal Sunday shopping trip. I've told this story before to a few people, and most of them assume I misunderstood something, or that I panicked and filled in gaps that weren't there. But I know what I heard, and I know what I saw standing next to me. My name is Laura Mitchell. I was 34 at the time, living in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Chicago. I worked a regular office job, nothing special, data entry for a logistics company. My life was stable in the most boring way possible. Same grocery store every week. Same Sunday routine with my son. My son's name was Daniel. He was 7 years old back then. Bright kid, talkative, always asking questions I didn't always have answers for. That Sunday started like any other. We went to the local supermarket around noon. It was one of those large chain stores with wide aisles, overhead speakers that always had soft music playing, and that constant background noise of carts rolling over polished floors. Daniel was walking right beside me, holding onto the side of the cart like he usually did when he was distracted. I remember he was talking about some game on his tablet, something about levels and characters. I wasn't fully listening. Not because I didn't care, but because I was thinking about bills, groceries, dinner, all the usual noise in an adult's head. The store was crowded, but not overwhelming. Families, couples, kids running slightly ahead of their parents. Everything normal, predictable, safe. That's what makes what happened later so difficult to explain. Because nothing about that moment felt dangerous at first. We were near the dairy section when the first announcement came over the speakers. It was one of those automated voices. Calm, neutral, the kind you usually ignore. Attention shoppers, we have a lost child waiting at the front service desk. His name is Daniel. I stopped walking. Just like that, my hand tightened on the cart. I remember laughing a little under my breath because it was such a coincidence. My son's name was Daniel too. I looked down at him. He was still right there. Same hoodie, same sneakers he always wore even though I told him they were getting worn out. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the shelves like he hadn't even heard it. Did you hear that? I asked him. Hear what? He said. I shook my head. Nothing. Never mind. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Daniel is a common name. Stores handle lost kids all the time. It didn't mean anything. We kept walking. But then the announcement came again. Same voice. Same calm tone. Attention shoppers, the lost child, Daniel, is now crying. He is asking for his mother at the front service desk. This time I actually felt a small chill go through me. I stopped the cart again. Daniel finally looked up at me. And I noticed something I didn't like immediately. His face had changed. Not dramatically, not in a movie way, just pale, slightly tense, like someone had turned the brightness down in his expression. Mom, he said quietly, don't go to the front. I frowned. What are you talking about? He looked around the store like he was checking if anyone was listening. Just don't go. I laughed nervously. Why would I go to the front? It's not you. You're right here. But he didn't laugh back. He didn't even smile. That was the first time I felt something was off. Still, I pushed it aside. Kids say weird things. Maybe he was scared of getting separated or just reacting to the announcement in a strange way. We continued shopping, but the store didn't feel the same after that. It's hard to explain, but it felt like the space around us had subtly shifted. Like the aisles were longer than they should be. Like the speakers were slightly too loud. And then the announcement came again. Attention shoppers, Daniel has been waiting at the front service desk for 11 years. I stopped so fast the cart rolled a few inches ahead without me. That sentence didn't make sense. 11 years. I turned to look at my son. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring straight down the aisle toward the front of the store. His lips moved like he was trying to say something but couldn't. Daniel, I said slowly. His voice came out barely above a whisper. Mom, don't go to the front. Now my stomach dropped, because he said it like he wasn't warning me. He said it like he was remembering something. I knelt down slightly, so I was at his level. Hey, I said carefully, what's wrong with you? You're scaring me. His eyes finally met mine. And I swear to you, I've never seen a child look like that before or since. He looked exhausted. Not physically, emotionally, like something inside him had been carrying weight for a very long time. I didn't want you to hear that, he said. Hear what? He shook his head quickly. Nothing. Please just don't go to the front. Before I could respond, the announcement came again. But this time it was different. It wasn't calm anymore. It was slower, heavier. Attention shoppers, the child Daniel is alone. He is crying. He does not recognize his mother anymore. I felt my skin go cold. That doesn't happen in announcements. Stores don't phrase things like that. People nearby started slowing down, looking confused. A man pushing a cart glanced up at the speakers. A woman paused mid-aisle, but no one else seemed as affected as I was, because my son had grabbed my sleeve tightly, and he was shaking. Mom, he said again, but his voice cracked this time. Please don't go. That's when I noticed something I had ignored earlier. His grip. It was too strong, too controlled, like he was holding on not out of fear, but out of necessity. Like if I moved forward, something would break. I pulled my arm slightly back. Daniel, I said more firmly. We are not playing games right now. What is going on? He hesitated. Then he said something I didn't understand at first. I'm not the one they're calling. I blinked. What? They're not calling me, he said again. They're calling the other me. I stood up slowly. A cold pressure started building in my chest. What other you? I asked. He looked away, and for the first time, I noticed how tightly he was gripping the cart too. Not just me, the cart, like anchoring himself. But then the announcement came again, and this one changed everything. Attention shoppers, Daniel has been waiting for 11 years. He remembers his mother now. My son let go of my sleeve instantly, like he had been burned. His face went completely blank, and he whispered something that made my stomach drop into emptiness. Mom, don't go to the front. That's where they decide. I froze. Decide what? But he didn't answer. Because at that exact moment, a woman walked past us pushing a cart with a toddler inside it. She didn't look at us. No one was reacting the way I expected. It was like only I could hear how wrong everything sounded. Then I made a mistake. I turned my head toward the front of the store. Just slightly. Just enough to see the long aisle leading toward customer service. And for a fraction of a second, I saw something standing at the far end. A child. Small. Still. Looking directly at me. I felt my breath stop. Because even from that distance, I knew. It looked like Daniel. But older. Not physically older in a natural way. Older in a way that didn't belong on a child's body. Like time had been stretched inside him. And then I heard my son's voice behind me. Close. Too close. I told you not to look. I turned around immediately. He was right behind me now. Standing too still. Too straight. And his eyes were not the same anymore. They were focused. Calm. Not scared. Like something had settled inside him. Daniel, I whispered. He tilted his head slightly and smiled. But it wasn't his smile. It was practiced. Wrong. You're confused, he said gently. My throat tightened. What did you say? You're confused, he repeated. You've been confused for a long time. I backed up a step. My cart hit a shelf behind me. I felt my hands start to shake. No, I said. No, I know who you are. He sighed softly like I had disappointed him. That's what they all say. And then the announcement came again. But this time, it wasn't from the speakers. It felt closer, like it was inside the aisle itself. Attention shoppers, Daniel is no longer waiting. A pause. Then, he has been picked up. My son turned his head slightly toward the front of the store and said something I will never forget. She's there now. My body moved before my mind did. I grabbed his arm. Who is there? I demanded. But the moment I touched him, something felt wrong. Not physically wrong, existentially wrong. Like I wasn't touching a child anymore. Like I was touching a memory of one. He looked at my hand on his arm, then at me, and very calmly said, You shouldn't have come back here, Mom. That was when everything started making sense in the worst possible way. The announcements, the warnings, the repetition of a name, the way no one else reacted, because they weren't hearing what I was hearing. And the child standing in front of me wasn't scared. He was returning something I had lost a long time ago, and didn't realize I had lost properly. The front of the store called again. One last time. Daniel, please come to the front service desk. My son, whatever he was now, looked at me softly and said, That's not for me. He pointed behind me. I turned and saw the real front of the store for the first time. Not shelves, not customers, just a long, empty stretch of floor leading into something that looked too large to be inside the building. And at the end of it, a child sitting alone, waiting, 11 years waiting, looking exactly like my son, but not mine. Behind me, the boy whispered, If you go to him, you'll understand what you left behind. And I realized then, standing there in the middle of a crowded Sunday grocery store, that no one else seemed to notice was wrong. The boy beside me was never the lost child. He was what came back when I stopped being able to find the right one. Story 7. Have you ever returned something and felt like the place didn't just accept it, but was waiting for it? like it already knew you'd come back. I still think about that question every time I pass a Costco now. I don't go in anymore. I can't. Not after what happened with the mirror. My name is Laura. I was 29 at the time, living in New Jersey, working a basic office job, data entry, nothing important. My life was the kind you forget while you're living it. Wake up, coffee, train commute, 8 hours of screens, back home, repeat. Nothing strange ever happened to me before that, or at least I thought it didn't. The mirror started as just another cheap purchase. It was a full-length wall mirror from Costco. Big, heavy, framed in plain black plastic. I bought it during one of those late-night trips when you go in for toothpaste and somehow leave with furniture. I put it in my bedroom, across from my bed. That was mistake number one. At first, it was fine. Normal mirror things. Checking outfits, fixing hair, that kind of thing. Then one night, around 2:13 a.m., I woke up thirsty. My room was dark except for the streetlight leaking through the blinds. I sat up, looked toward the mirror, and saw someone standing behind me. Not in the room. In the reflection. A shape. Human. Just there. I froze so hard I couldn't breathe. I remember my fingers gripping the bedsheet like it was going to anchor me to reality. Then I turned around. Nothing. Just my room. Empty. Silent. I told myself it was tiredness. Light distortion. Brain tricks. You'd think that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next week, it kept happening. Not every night. Randomly. Unpredictably. Sometimes I'd see a figure standing too close behind me in the mirror. Sometimes just the suggestion of someone in the corner of the reflection, gone the moment I focused on it. I started sleeping with the lights on. Then I started avoiding the mirror completely. But mirrors don't let you ignore them. They're always there. On the 7th night, I finally snapped. I wrapped the mirror in a blanket and leaned it against the wall. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. A small sticker on the back. Costco return policy. Satisfaction guaranteed. I don't know why, but I laughed. Nervous. Tired. Unstable, probably. And I decided to return it. The next morning, I drove to the nearest Costco in Edison. I remember it was raining slightly, that gray kind of drizzle that makes everything feel temporary. I dragged the mirror inside, still wrapped in the blanket. People were staring a bit, but Costco is the kind of place where nobody really questions anything. I went straight to customer service. There was a woman behind the counter, maybe mid-40s, hair tied back, expression flat in that retail way that says she's seen everything and cared about none of it. "I need to return this," I said. She didn't even look surprised. "What's wrong with it?" she asked. I hesitated. "I think it's defective." She nodded slowly, like she was filling out a form in her head. "And what's the defect?" I lowered my voice. "It shows someone behind me when I'm alone." That should have been the moment she reacted. Confusion. Concern. Anything. Instead, she just stared at me for a few seconds. Then she said something I'll never forget. We wondered when it would come back. My stomach dropped. "What?" She finally looked away from me and at the mirror, still wrapped in the blanket. "Put it on the cart," she said. That was it. No questions. No paperwork beyond a quick swipe of my membership card. She even smiled faintly as she processed the refund, like I had returned a toaster. As I walked away, I heard her say under her breath, almost casually, "Next time it settles faster." I stopped, turned back. "What did you say?" But she was already helping another customer, acting like I wasn't there. I left the store with my refund and a very specific feeling in my chest. Like I hadn't fixed something. Like I had handed it back. That night is when things really started. Because when I got home, I realized my Costco membership card was still in the mirror box. I remember standing in my apartment, holding the empty box, feeling stupid for not checking properly. So I went back. It was already dark. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a few scattered cars and the glow of the red sign over the entrance. Something felt wrong the moment I walked in. Costco is never quiet, but that night it was. No carts rolling, no distant announcements, no music, just fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like insects trapped in glass. I walked toward customer service. The desk was open, but no one was there. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. Then I saw movement. Behind the counter, someone stood up slowly, and my entire body went cold. It was me, or it was my reflection. Same height, same face, same clothes, standing perfectly still behind the counter, looking at me like it had been waiting the whole time. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I stepped back instinctively. The reflection didn't. It leaned slightly forward, like it was getting used to moving in a different space. Then it spoke. "You left something," it said. Its voice was mine, but flatter, cleaner, like a recording that had been edited too many times. "My membership card," I whispered. It nodded. "We kept it for you." We made my skin crawl. From somewhere behind the aisles, I heard carts moving. Slowly, evenly, like someone pushing them in a straight line just out of sight. I backed away from the counter. "I just want to leave," I said. The reflection tilted its head. "That's not how returns work." The lights flickered, just once, and in that single blink of darkness, the store changed. The aisles felt longer, too long, stretching farther than they should physically allow. And I realized something terrifying. There were more than 16 aisles. I could see them now, extending into places the store layout should not have space for. Dark, endless rows disappearing into a depth that felt impossible for a warehouse building. Aisle signs flickered above them. 17, 18, 19. I don't know how many. I turned to run, but the exit doors were gone. Just shelves now, filled with products. And every product had a face, not printed like a logo. Real faces, frozen expressions, familiar ones, people I'd seen before but couldn't place at first. Then I recognized one, my coworker from years ago, on a cereal box, smiling too wide. The reflection behind the counter tapped the desk once. "You returned the mirror," it said. "That means you accepted the policy." "What policy?" I shouted. It finally stepped out from behind the counter, and as it moved closer, I noticed something wrong. It wasn't copying me anymore. It was updating me. Small differences appeared in its face. Slightly different posture, slightly different expression, like it was becoming a version of me that had been adjusted for the store. "Costco accepts everything," it said calmly. "Defective items, broken items, unwanted items." It paused, then added, "People who were never supposed to leave." I felt my legs weaken. I ran anyway. I don't even remember choosing a direction. I just moved. The aisles shifted as I ran. End caps rearranging themselves. Products sliding into new shapes, as if the store was actively reconfiguring itself around me. I passed mirrors, hundreds of them, all showing me slightly delayed, all showing me slightly wrong. In one, I wasn't running. I was standing calmly in a red vest behind customer service, smiling. In another, I was already gone, just a shelf tag where I used to be. Then I saw the exit. Real exit. Bright light beyond it. I sprinted. Something grabbed my arm. Cold. Firm. I looked down. My own hand, coming from a reflection on a freezer door, pulling me back. I screamed and jerked free, crashing through the emergency exit. Cold night air hit me so hard I nearly collapsed outside. Behind me, the doors didn't open. They just became a wall again. Smooth. Seamless. Like they were never there. I ran to my car shaking so badly I dropped my keys twice. I didn't stop until I was home. Even then, I didn't sleep, because I kept seeing reflections where there shouldn't be any. Phone screen off. Reflection. Dark window. Reflection. Microwave door. Reflection. All slightly delayed. All watching. Days later, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was my Costco membership card and a receipt. It only had one item listed. Laura M. Returned. Refund approved. That was 6 years ago. I don't go to Costco anymore. I avoid mirrors when I can. But sometimes when I'm tired, I catch it again. Just for a second. Someone standing behind me. Patient. Waiting. And I understand now what the employee meant. We wondered when it would come back. Because the return policy was never about products. It was about acceptance. And once you're accepted, there's no final return. Story 8. Have you ever looked at a photo and felt like it was showing you a moment that hasn't happened yet? I didn't believe that was possible either. Until my Costco membership card started updating itself. My name is Elena Carter. I was 19 when this happened, living in a quiet suburb outside San Diego. I was in community college, working part-time at a small cafe near the highway. Nothing special. My life was basically the same routine every week. Classes, shifts, home, repeat. My parents liked shopping at Costco because, as my dad used to say, you buy once, you suffer less often. That Saturday was supposed to be boring. Just a new membership card. That's it. We went in around 4 p.m., the store buzzing like usual. Shopping carts rattling, forklifts beeping somewhere in the distance, the smell of roasted chicken hanging in the air like it always does. At the membership desk, the employee was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a polite smile that didn't quite reach her face. "New card?" she asked. I nodded. She asked me to stand in front of the camera. The little screen beside it flickered to life, showing my face slightly washed out under the bright light. "Don't smile too much," she said. "It makes the system glitch sometimes." I laughed a little. "The system?" She didn't answer. The camera clicked. And that's when everything paused. The screen froze for a second longer than it should have. I remember thinking it was just lag, technology stuff, normal. Then I saw the photo. It was me, but older. Not just older like 5 or 10 years. It looked like I had been through something. My face was pale, tired, hair pulled back messily, eyes hollow like I hadn't slept properly in a long time. I was still standing in Costco, but at night. The aisles behind me were dark, almost empty, just long shadows stretching across the floor. I remember laughing nervously. Is that supposed to happen? The employee leaned in slightly, squinted at the screen, then quickly hit a button. "It's fine," she said too fast. "Just a lighting error. Happens sometimes." But she didn't look convinced. She printed the card anyway. My mom joked about it in the car. "Wow," she said, glancing at the card. "Future Elena looks like she's had a rough day." We laughed. Even I laughed. But I didn't throw the card away like I should have. Because I didn't think it mattered. That was the first mistake. The second mistake was using it the next week. The first time I swiped it at the entrance, the scanner beeped normally. Nothing strange. But when I looked at the small photo on the screen, my membership profile, I noticed something different. The image had changed. It was still me, but slightly more worn down. My hair looked messier. My eyes looked more alert, like I was scanning the room for something. And in the background, there was a stack of pallets that I didn't recognize. I told myself I was imagining it. Screens don't just update themselves, I said to my friend Maya when I mentioned it later. She laughed. "You've been watching too many creepy TikToks." So I stopped talking about it, but I didn't stop checking. Every time I went to Costco, I looked at the screen. And every time the photo changed. Week 1, I just looked tired. Week 2, I looked like I hadn't slept in days. Week 3, there was something in the background behind me. Owls I didn't recognize. Lights turned off in sections of the store. Week 4, I was hiding. Not standing. Not posing. Hiding behind stacked boxes in a warehouse aisle. My hand covering my mouth like I was trying not to breathe. And something dark was at the end of the aisle. Not visible, just implied, like the shadow of something tall moving closer. That was the first time I didn't laugh. I went home that night and put the card in a drawer. And I told myself I was done thinking about it. But 2 days later, my mom asked me to grab groceries. So I went back. I didn't even think about the card until I reached the entrance. The employee scanned it like normal, but the screen didn't show my previous photo. It showed a new one. And this time I wasn't hiding. I was running. The camera angle looked wrong, tilted slightly, like it had been taken in a hurry. My face was turned back over my shoulder, mouth open like I was mid-breath, mid-scream, mid-something I couldn't hear. Behind me, the aisle lights were flickering, and the thing behind me was closer. Still not clear, just shape, presence. I remember my hands going cold. I told the employee, "This isn't my photo." She barely looked at me. "System updates automatically," she said. "Probably just syncing error." "Syncing with what?" I asked. She didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about something she said when I first got the card. "Don't smile too much. It makes the system glitch." What system? The next visit changed everything. I went alone this time. I told myself I was just going to prove it was nothing. When I scanned the card at the entrance, the screen took longer than usual to load. The employee frowned at it. He muttered. Then it appeared. My photo. But it wasn't me anymore. Not fully. It was me, but I was crouched inside what looked like the employee's storage area. Shelves of boxes towered around me. The lighting was red, emergency lighting. My face was completely terrified now. My eyes were fixed on something just out of frame. Something standing behind me. I stepped back without realizing it. "That's not real," I said. The employee finally looked at me properly. For the first time, he didn't look bored. He looked uncomfortable. "You've used this card how many times?" he asked. "I don't know. 3, 4. He didn't say anything for a second. Then he whispered, "That's too many." "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, the screen flickered again. The image changed. Now I was on the floor, crawling, and the thing behind me was close enough that I could see its outline clearly now. Tall, thin, too close to the camera. I dropped the card. "I want a new one," I said quickly. "Just cancel it. I'll pay again." The employee shook his head. "I can't." "Why not?" He hesitated. Then he said something I still think about too often. "Because it already printed your last one." I didn't understand. He pointed at the screen again. The image had changed one more time. I wasn't crawling anymore. I was gone. The camera showed an empty aisle, but the timestamp on the photo was current, as if the system had already taken a picture of a moment I hadn't reached yet. That's when I noticed something else. At the bottom of the image, barely visible, there was a label. Elena Carter, active member. And underneath it, in smaller text, location, store after hours. I stepped away from the desk. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The employee called after me, but I was already walking away. I left the cart. I left everything. I didn't even finish shopping. I just got out. But the worst part? When I passed the exit, I looked back through the glass doors, and I saw the employee still standing there, looking at the screen, and nodding slowly, like he was confirming something. That night, I checked my phone obsessively. No new charges, no alerts. But at 2:13 a.m., I got a notification from the Costco app. Just one line. New photo available. I didn't open it. Not at first. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I tapped it. The image loaded slowly, and I wish I had never seen it. It was me, standing inside Costco, but not shopping, not walking, just standing in the middle of a dark aisle, completely still, looking directly at the camera. Behind me, something was closer than ever, close enough that part of it was finally visible. A hand, reaching toward my shoulder. I dropped my phone. I didn't go back to Costco for a month after that, but eventually I had to. We all run out of groceries. When I returned, I tried to act normal. I even borrowed my mom's card instead. But when I walked past the entrance scanner, I felt something shift. The screen flickered again, and for the first time, it didn't show a photo of me inside the store. It showed something else. A printed card, already made, already waiting. On the screen, I saw it clearly. My name, my face. But the photo wasn't taken from inside the store anymore. It was taken from outside, from the parking lot, from a moment I hadn't lived yet. I was standing there, looking down at the card in my hand, and smiling. Not a happy smile, a forced one, like I already knew what was going to happen inside. That's when I understood the truth. The card wasn't updating. It was documenting, not what I had done, what I was going to do. And the final image, the one I had seen before I ever stepped inside again, was already printed the moment I first smiled at that camera. I stopped going to Costco after that. I cut the card, threw it away. But sometimes when I walk past stores with membership scanners, I still feel it. That quiet thought in the back of my mind, that somewhere in some system I don't have access to anymore, there's still a version of me standing in that aisle, waiting for something I already agreed to. And the worst part is, I don't remember saying yes, but the system did. Story 9. Have you ever noticed how some places feel completely normal until something small makes you realize they were never normal at all? I didn't understand that feeling until I started seeing the man in the bulk section. Tonight's story is about that. About a store that felt like any other store until it started asking for something back. My name is Ryan. I was 17 when this happened, living in a quiet suburb outside Ohio. Nothing special about my life back then. School during the week, part-time job on weekends, and usually one big grocery trip with my mom every Saturday morning. We always went to the same wholesale store, not because we loved it, but because everything came in bulk and my mom liked being prepared. 10 rolls of paper towels, industrial-sized cereal boxes, bottled water stacked like bricks in our pantry. It always felt a little excessive to me, but I never questioned it. That changed when I started noticing him. It began on a normal Saturday morning. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, carts rattling, that cold indoor air that always smelled like cardboard and oranges at the same time. I was pushing the cart behind my mom while she compared two nearly identical packs of rice like it was a life or death decision. That's when I saw the man. He was standing at the end of the aisle. Not shopping, not browsing, just standing there. Tall, thin, wearing a dark jacket that looked out of place in a store full of bright colors and corporate uniforms. He wasn't looking at shelves. He was looking at people, at families, at carts. I remember thinking he might be an employee at first, but something about him didn't fit. Employees move. They do things. They restock, they scan, they talk. This man just watched. When I pointed him out to my mom, she didn't even turn around fully. "Ryan, stop staring at people," she said. "But he's right there." She sighed. "There's nobody there." I looked again. The aisle was empty. That was the first time my stomach dropped for no reason I could explain. I told myself I had just missed him walking away. That's what I told myself for a long time. But then it happened again. Next week, different aisle, same store. He was there, always at the end of the aisle, always watching carts. Not people, not faces, the carts. I started noticing patterns after that. Whenever we went, he would appear at least once. Sometimes near the frozen section, sometimes near bulk snacks, sometimes just standing between aisles like he had been placed there. But the strange part wasn't that I saw him. It was that nobody else ever did. My mom never reacted. My dad never reacted. Cashiers didn't react. Other shoppers walked past him like he wasn't even part of the space. I told myself I was just imagining it. I mean, that's the easy answer, right? Until the notes started showing up. The first one appeared inside a bulk pack of paper towels we bought home. My mom opened it in the kitchen, and a small folded piece of paper fell out. She thought it was some warehouse mistake, but I picked it up first. It was handwritten. "You bought too much. Something must be taken back." My mom laughed when she read it. "Probably a quality control joke," she said. "These places always do weird marketing." But she still threw it away. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear exactly, but because the note didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a statement, like someone had checked our cart and made a decision about our lives. The next week, it happened again. Inside a bulk box of cereal. Same handwriting. "You bought too much. Something must be taken back." This time my dad got annoyed. "Some employee is messing around," he said. "I'll complain next time we go." But I noticed something he didn't. The handwriting wasn't printed. It wasn't even pen ink. It looked pressed into the packaging, like it had been there before the box was sealed. That was the first time I started watching more carefully at the store. And that's when I saw him again. Same man. End of aisle. Watching my cart. But this time, he did something different. He tilted his head slightly, like he was counting what we had. Milk. Bulk rice. Detergent. Bottled drinks. Paper towels. Like he was taking inventory of us, not the shelves. I told my parents again. There's a man watching us. Every time we come here. My dad didn't even look up. Ryan, stop making things up. My mom gave me that tired look parents give when they assume you're being dramatic. But later that night, something happened that made it harder to ignore. I woke up around 3 a.m. to hear the pantry door opening. Just slightly. We had a small hallway pantry, nothing fancy. I thought it was my dad grabbing a snack. But when I walked out, the hallway was empty. The pantry was open, and one of the bulk boxes was missing. Just gone. No mess. No noise. No explanation. The next morning, my mom insisted she had moved it and forgotten. But I knew she hadn't, because that box had been stacked too high for her to reach without a stool. That was the first time I felt something shift in the house. Not fear exactly. Awareness. Like something had entered our life and started adjusting it quietly. Over the next week, things began disappearing. First small things. A spoon from the drawer. A bottle from the fridge. A remote that turned up in a different room. Then larger things. A framed photo from the living room wall. My dad's old watch. A set of keys my mom swore she had just used. Every time we noticed something missing, we dismissed it. Until I found another note. This one wasn't inside a product. It was taped to the inside of our front door. You bought too much. Something must be taken back. My hands went cold when I saw it, because I realized something that night. The note wasn't warning us. It was responding to us. Like every time we brought too much into our home, something was being removed to balance it. That night I started paying attention to my memories. And that's when it got worse. I couldn't remember what the missing photo looked like anymore. Not clearly, just a blur where my parents stood. Like my mind was trying to fill in something that wasn't there. The next day at school, I asked my friend if he remembered visiting my house last month. He frowned. What house? I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. He genuinely didn't remember being there. And I knew he had been. That was the first time I seriously considered that something wasn't just being taken from our house. It was being taken from us. I stopped going to the store for a while after that. My parents kept going like nothing was wrong. Bulk shopping was just part of our routine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that every trip brought something back with it, or something else in return. Then one night, I saw him outside the store. Not inside, standing near the parking lot light pole, watching cars leave, watching carts being loaded into trunks. And when our car passed him, I swear he looked directly at me, like he had been waiting for me to notice. That night I asked my dad to stop going to that store. He got angry. It's just groceries, Ryan. But I couldn't explain it properly. How do you tell someone that a man in a warehouse is slowly deleting your life? So we went again, and that was the last normal day. We bought more than usual. Stocked up heavily. My mom called it saving money. That night, I woke up to silence. Not just quiet, absence. I walked into the hallway and felt immediately wrong, like the house had lost weight. The living room was dim, and at first I couldn't tell what was missing. Then I saw it. The wall where our family photos hung was empty. Not fallen, not damaged, just blank, like they had never been there. I ran to my parents' room. My mom was asleep. My dad too. I shook him awake. Where are the photos? He looked at me confused. What photos? That was the moment I realized he wasn't pretending. He genuinely didn't remember them. My heart sank into my stomach as I stood there, realizing something was being erased in real time, and I was the only one still holding on to it. I ran outside barefoot. I don't even know why. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. And then I saw him again, standing at the end of our street, the man from the bulk section. He wasn't looking at me this time. He was looking at our house, like he had just finished collecting something from it. I asked him, my voice shaking. "What do you want?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he finally spoke. Not loud, not aggressive, just calm. "You keep taking more than you return." I didn't understand. He stepped closer, and I swear the streetlight flickered when he moved. "For everything you buy in bulk," he said, "something personal must be balanced." I shook my head. "That doesn't make sense." He tilted his head slightly. "It does. You just never notice what's missing until it's gone." Then he looked back at my house, and I felt it, like a memory snapping loose. I couldn't remember my sister's voice anymore. I tried. I really tried. But it was just gone. I collapsed right there on the sidewalk. When I looked up again, he was already gone. The next morning, my parents were back to normal. Laughing, eating breakfast, talking about shopping lists. But they didn't mention the photos, or my sister, like she had never existed. I stopped arguing after that. I just observed. Every bulk item we brought home came with something missing later. Not always obvious. Sometimes a memory, sometimes a detail, sometimes just a feeling I couldn't name anymore. And every time, I started noticing the same man more clearly at the store. Not just watching anymore, waiting, like he knew exactly what we would lose next. I don't go there anymore, but sometimes when I pass similar stores, I catch myself scanning the aisles automatically, looking for the end of them, looking for him, because I understand now what he is. He's not haunting the store. He's part of the transaction. And every time you take too much from a place that offers more for less, something, somewhere, quietly gets taken back. I still don't know what I've lost that I haven't noticed yet, but I know it's not nothing. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that balance always finds a way, even if you don't realize what's being balanced until it's already gone.